Please note, for maximum picture quality, it may be necessary to adjust the tracking control on your VCR.
7 minutes ago, we, your forefathers, were brought forth upon a most excellent adventure, conceived by our new friends, Liam and Ollie. These two great gentlemen are dedicated to a proposition which was as true in my time, just as it's true today. Be excellent to one another. And party on, dudes! This is Adjust Your Tracking. A podcast where we're on an adventure to watch a century of cinema, decade by decade, year by year. I am one half of your host, Liam Delaney.
And I am Oliver Jones.
Excellent! This is the nerdiest thing ever. We've out-nerdied. What's it called? Batman Forever?
Probably, yeah. I mean, you've done episodes on F is for Fake, Barry Lyndon, Matt, Wanda, and now Bill and Ted.
Yeah, we're hitting all the heights.
Bill and Ted,
all
that
the
famous 70s
films.
franchise.
Yeah. So welcome to our 70s miniseries. Where we're doing Bill and Ted. But it makes sense. Like, now and again, we always said we'll dip into films that mean a lot to us. And there is nearly a film out there that means as much to us as this film. Like,
Yeah,
I think,
definitely.
as friends.
Oh, yeah. I think every Saturday and Sunday we're around each other's house. There's probably a Bill and Ted 1 or 2 was on rotation.
Probably. If not being talked about or laughed about or joked about. And
Or
I'm
played in the
pretty certain-
playground or something like that.
Yeah. And I'm pretty certain our proclivity for saying dude a lot might just stem from this.
Oh, 100%.
More than any... There definitely wasn't a common parlance in Birmingham growing up.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's definitely come from somewhere. And there's a new Bill and Ted film out. Face the Music. It should be on cinemas when this episode's dropping, I should hope.
16th, I think. So,
Yeah, I think so. Which is a weird day to drop a film. I guess they do drop films on Wednesdays now, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know. But, and we thought we'd just talk about Bill and Ted. All of them. And the new one. And just give some context to it, because it's fun. And we all need some fun, don't you think, Ollie?
Definitely. So, what do you reckon your earliest memories of Bill and Ted were then? Like, do you remember when you first saw it, or?
I was trying to think about that today, because, I definitely didn't see it in 89. Definitely.
No.
And I doubt I saw it in 91. So, well, maybe I did see it in 91. Maybe the fact that, Bogus Journey came out in 91 and Bill and Ted then existed on maybe TV reruns or VHSs.
Yeah.
Maybe that's when I saw Excellent Adventure and then saw Bogus Journey later. But I swear I got them both on VHS at the same time.
You probably did. You probably had one of those combo packs, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
Both.
you had both of the films in one pack, or one of those huge double packs or something.
I was going to say, I remember the exact moment I saw the first one. I was at Robert Kenyon's house, and because he had two older brothers who were definitely into rock and roll and stuff like that. They had the Keanu Reeves floppy fringe, and they wore the kind of the plaid jumpers and the stonewashed jeans and all that kind of stuff. And so it was definitely that film was made for them. And I remember them putting it on one afternoon, and I think Chris sometimes, Rob's older brother, had to kind of watch over me and Rob sometimes if his parents went out, and just stuck us in the lounge and put it on, and we were hooked instantly. And I borrowed the tape, took it home, and I think I watched the Excellent Adventure about 7 times in a row, if that's even possible. I know I must have annoyed my parents so much. I remember my sister taking me to see Bogus Journey at the cinema with Rob as well. And I remember walking home and thinking, I'm never going to watch another film again because I will forget how amazing that film was. I even remember that thought going through my head.
That's so delightful. That's so wonderful. I wonder if I got it from you then, if you were so into it before me. I just don't remember. I tend not to remember when I first saw stuff at that age because it all gets merged together.
Well, that young,
So-
like what, 6 maybe, 6 or
Yeah.
7, you know.
And God knows when Bogus Journey actually came out in the UK. I doubt it was 91.
I think it was.
Probably-
It was.
Oh, was
91,
it?
Yeah.
But yeah, with that young, everything merges together for me. Like those kind of 80s films I could have sworn I just saw them all at the same time. Actually, that's not true. I remember when I first saw Back to the Future 1. I saw it at Christmas. I remember sitting in the front room watching it. I was sitting right by the TV, like kind of lying on a pillow right in front of the television. And I really remember seeing that.
Well, I mean, like Back to the Future and other films like that all kind of go hand in hand with Bill and Ted for me.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
that high concept comedies of the 80s.
And I mean, you only even have to watch the intro of Back to the Future and Bill and Ted, and they're quite similar. They're both set in like a garage.
That's true.
They both involve speakers that blow up. They're both time travel films, so you know. But apparently, like this film was written completely independent. Like I think it was written before they even knew what Back to the Future was, or it even existed. So they
really? That's not what I know about it, but because they wrote it in '87.
Oh, really? I know they wrote the characters. They created the characters beforehand, didn't they?
Yeah, you're right. So the characters, Bill and Ted, were improv characters that the two writers used to do at college. Two ideas of two losers at school who just have this kind of ridiculous language to each other, and they were just improv characters they did.
Right.
But the idea was to put them in a time travel movie, and it was called Bill and Ted's Time Van. Was actually the script.
Okay.
And Rufus was their 28-year-old friend who was like the driver or something.
Oh, okay.
And then they changed that because of Back to the Future, because the Chevrolet van they thought was too close in concept to the DeLorean, so they just came up with the phone box, which is nothing to do with Doctor Who. They never knew what Doctor Who was.
Oh, really?
Which makes sense, because why would they?
Yeah,
It didn't go to America until 2005.
But I guess it kind of makes sense. It's got digits on there, numbers that you can punch in. You know what I mean?
I love the simplicity of them dialing the time period or whatever, like a phone number. I think it's so funny, and it really works.
Did you know the one writer, his dad wrote I Am Legend, I think?
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the writer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the history of all these films are really cool. Are we just getting into them? Shall we get into Excellent Adventure?
Yeah, let's go into it. Yeah.
So obviously, Excellent Adventure comes out in 1989. It's directed by Stephen Herrick. You'll know Stephen Herrick from such wonderful films as, go on, Ollie, do you know? Mighty Ducks?
Did he do Mighty Ducks? I feel like did he do The Borrowers? No, I may have made that one up.
No, I don't think he did The Borrowers.
Oh, he did 101 Dalmatians, didn't he? And
Yep.
Critters.
Three Musketeers.
Critters, as well,
Critters, yep. The Critters was the only film he'd done before this film, so this was his second film.
Right. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead as well.
Yeah, wonderful film. I love that film.
And that Richard Dreyfuss classic, Mr. Holland's Opus.
Mr. Holland's Opus. Which, no lie, if you talk about films when you first saw them, I remember my dad renting that, and I remember watching it like 3 times before we took it back to the video store, and I don't know why. I've seen it since then.
You've got to get your money's worth.
You got to get your money's worth, yeah, especially from Mr. Holland's Opus, such a era-defining film. With some of the best old age makeup you've ever seen.
Apparently, this film though was like put on. Like, I think the company that made it, I think it was. Yeah, I think it may have been the same company that did like Superman and stuff like that. And and they kind of went bust, didn't they?
June. There's a company that did June.
Oh, was it June?
So basically, Warner Bros. Wanted to make this film for 10 million. And even in 1989, 10 million was a pittance, especially to do like a high concept time travel thing with special effects and stuff. So basically, DEG got involved, who I can't remember their full title, but
wasn't it produced by De Laurentiis or like his
that's
company?
That's it, DEG.
Yeah.
Dino De Laurentiis something or other. They pushed in all the cash and got a bit more money out of it, but when it went into post-production, DEG went into bankruptcy.
Right.
So what DEG did is they screened all the films they were making at the time. They screened all their rough cuts around town to try and get people to buy it. And no one would buy Bill and Ted at all. To the point that basically the director got called up by whoever, I guess DEG's lawyers, telling them that they wouldn't even release it on videotape because they thought it was too expensive to even get it out there. And it was just going to be scrapped, basically. And then the last step, Ryan and Nelson Entertainment step in and they buy it. And they screen test it around town. And it absolutely blows up on screen test.
I don't understand how you could watch that film and think, nah, it's not a good film. Like it's.
Well, I think
it's
I know,
insane.
But like what the production, I think I'll get myself in twisty knots here, but like one thing about the film is that it's a proper Gen X film about how our parents don't understand us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the executive didn't get it. They were the parents that didn't understand.
Just the older states people. Yeah, just kind of
And the funny thing about it is because by 1989, the idea of it's aggressively San Damus kind of movie, but like by 1989, the idea that people walking around calling each other dude and that kind of slang was outdated. That kind of stuff was like 82,
right?
Really?
Like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but kind of by the time that came round, all the executives were like, "No one speaks like this. You can't release this film anywhere. This is just like a town in California speak like this. You can't. How can you push this out anywhere?" And they just believed that basically over anything else.
But I guess as well at that time, the Ninja Turtles kind of came in and they were all like cowabunga and dude and all that. So I guess that
it all started growing up.
To come back in, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I find really interesting about the film as well is that Bill and Ted were envisaged to be like 14-year-olds.
Oh, really?
Wearing like kind of outdated clothes, like I think bell bottoms it says in the script and stuff. And they were the kids at school that got picked on. They weren't meant to be kind of cool or at all.
Do you think they're a bit more of a Harold and Lloyd from like Dumb and Dumber? Do you think they're meant to be more like those?
Yeah, I always thought about like basically Beavis and Butthead more.
Oh, okay.
Like kind of like that might not be what they're going for, but just really dumb kids that people didn't like is I think the way the script was written. And it's absolutely the Alex Winter and Keanu Reeves that pick up that script and change it. Like it's all in performance.
So you think they kind of add that rock and roll element to it, kind of more?
Yeah, and just insanely lovable, which is like Keanu's whole thing as well. Really, in life, he's just the most insanely lovable man.
Well, I mean, Alex Winter seems like an actual delight as well. If you ever read him,
who almost didn't get cast as well.
Really?
Because that was meant to be Pauly Shore.
Oh my god!
I know.
I can't do a Pauly Shore.
Ugh, what? These are heavy. Yeah, dude, heavy metal, man. I feel like the dude in The Wizard of Oz. The straw dude? No, not that dude. If I only had a heart, well, I'd be most triumphant and ever fart. If I only had a heart. Way to go, dude!
Which is funny because he'd basically end up making a career based on like kind of not outdated, but kind of picking up on the popularity.
Oh yeah,
of
100%.
Film, really.
Like in the 90s, you definitely, I would say even maybe Wayne's World was kind of head off the heels of Bill and Ted, even Beavis and Butthead, and things like that.
But I think in other casting news, they wanted Eddie Van Halen as Rufus, but they basically couldn't afford him. So they kind of accidentally ended up on George Carlin. I think the way that the writer says it is just it was a weird happy accident and they can't remember how it happened, which is I just love.
It's insane when you watch it back though, because I think Rufus is in 4 scenes.
Yeah, he's barely in it.
Yeah, and in the second one, he's in 2 scenes.
He's not in it at all. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's so weird that he kind of looms large,
but he makes such an impact.
In
that film, and
and the sequel's and the third one's all about him now. Really,
I know, and it's kind of like what they're doing with the Ghostbusters film. I guess they're kind of honouring that character by making it about them, really.
Yeah,
and but like Rufus is like nothing like George Carlin's like comedic persona.
No, not at all. It's not one of those stand-up performances.
Yeah, that's what I really like about it.
Like what's the guy in Demolition Man called?
Oh, Rob Schneider.
No. The guy who's in the Fireman show. I'm an asshole guy.
Oh, Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary, yeah. In Demolition Man, he's just doing his stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
When he's underground with Sty and talking about those with their whatever and whatevers. He's just doing his I'm an asshole stand-up. Like,
didn't he like rip off Bill Hicks as well? That guy, wasn't he like done for like plagiarising?
Yeah, I don't know if he was done for plagiarising. I just always thought they were really alike.
Right.
But I don't know. I don't know enough about that. But George Carlin. This is not doing just a George Carlin stand-up at all. To the point that when I definitely saw this before I knew who George Carlin was.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have known who he was, to be honest, especially in England, really.
No, and I don't even. I guess he was really popular in America when he did this because he's got 70s albums and stuff, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But
he was. I assume he was like the Billy Connolly of like America.
Yeah,
That's kind of what I always thought about it, but like maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I think I like that. But I only really know George Carlin from his later stuff. You know, the white hair George Carlin stuff is the stuff I know. But yeah, you're right. He doesn't do his stand-up performance in this. He's just playing the character Rufus, which works. You know, like
it's like what was the George Carlin joke? It's like it says, if 4 out of 5 people suffer from diarrhea, does that mean one person enjoys it or something like that? That's like the level of his like humour. But I think he did get a bit more political, didn't he, as he kind of went along and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. He was just always angry. Yeah. Like and as he got older, he got angrier. Like and you could
all
sense
old
it
men do though.
That's true. Even to the point that sometimes his anger was like, "Come on, George, you're misplacing this.
Yeah.
Like, why are you angry at like plain wings or something? I don't know, like chicken wings or something. Like I don't know."
But it's like, you know, Curb Your Enthusiasm. What's his name?
Yeah, Larry David.
Larry David. He's the same.
Similar sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently, basically, George Carlin was shooting a film with one of the producers and just finished, and they basically just pushed him onto this film. Like there was barely any discussion. They were trying to get like. I think Ringo Starr had been on the list, Roger Daltrey.
I could understand.
They were really going for like a rock star.
I can understand why they'd want to do that. Like,
yeah.
I mean, Roger Daltrey, I could kind of understand because he's acted before, and he's not a bad actor, but like Ringo Starr would be awful, and Eddie Van Halen would be terrible. Like, if Eddie Van Halen's in the film, he should be as Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah,
because they talk about him so much in the not a lot, but they mention him in. The film.
Do. He's all over that film.
Yeah,
which I always found interesting because you can tell where the culture was in 1989. Because I don't. This isn't.
Well, I reckon the culture was. I think because this film was probably shot in '86, it was definitely that culture then. Maybe by '89, that's kind of when the shift happens and it starts to become more like. Grunge starts to come in and alternative rock as a bit like Faith No More and stuff like that, as opposed and the Chili Peppers.
Yeah, and like I the weird thing about kind of Eddie Van Halen to me is that I know Van Halen's huge in America. I don't consider them a big band at all.
Yeah,
like I know like one song by them, and I'm not like somebody who doesn't know rock music. I just find it so weird that he's at some point they were like the biggest band in America.
Well, like they're even referenced in Back to the Future, aren't they? Because
are they?
Yeah, because when Marty's got the tape and he's kind of got the hazmat suit on or whatever, and he's kind of over George McFly's bed, he puts a Van Halen cassette tape in his. Yeah. But like, the only songs I know from Van Halen are Jump,
yeah.
Panama, Ain't Talk About Love, which is actually a tune. I love that.
Oh yeah.
And Hot for Teacher, and that's about it. Really.
I was going to say, did they do Hot for Teacher? That was the one I was trying to think. Did they
got
do
it bad,
Cherry Pie?
got it bad. He's Hot for Teacher.
It's Hot for Teacher. Did they do Cherry Pie?
Was that Motley Crue? I don't know.
Oh, maybe it's Motley Crue. I'm sure.
They all kind of blend together, don't they? Really?
They do. Which, talking of that, you know that the three most important people, you know, in the utopian society. You know, when they go to the future.
Yeah.
The three people that run the future. They were meant to be ZZ Top.
Oh my god. Again, going back to the Future.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
What was the song they did for that? Double Back? No.
Double Back, isn't it? You got to double back. Which was shooting right at this point, actually, wasn't it?
Yeah, it probably was, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't ZZ Top. It does. It would make sense to have like famous musicians, I guess, as the elders and stuff. But,
yeah, it would. It make perfect sense. I get it, and I do. What I do like, jumping ahead to Bogus Journey, what is funny to me is the difference in society between the two of them, because you have like hair metal in the '89 one, and it's absolute grunge by the 1991
Oh yeah,
one.
they're both wearing like stonewashed denim and the plaid. And
yeah.
They've all got Adidas trainers on and stuff like that.
And it's all Faith No More.
Yeah,
throughout the whole film. Like,
definitely got more metal in the second one as well, but we'll get to
that.
Yeah, this one, I don't think they had the budget to get like your A-list kind of rock tracks or whatever. So they have like Bricklin, and I'm trying to think who else is in it. Like bands that you never heard of, like Extreme and Robbie Rob.
Yeah.
And
Robbie
Power
Rob,
Tool.
yeah, who does In Time, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In
Pig who do Breakaway, which I think's the first song in the film.
Yeah.
Shark Island, Tora Tora. I mean, none of these bands I've ever heard anything by.
No, I know Extreme from one other song, but yeah, like I know Robbie Rob because of this soundtrack. That's it.
Yeah.
And not that I think I've ever listened to the soundtrack. I just know that song.
I've listened to it quite a lot. It's on YouTube, and you can listen to the whole thing. And I think they're on Spotify now. So
check it out.
Yeah, man.
But the Bogus Journey soundtrack was much bigger because you got like Steve Vai all over it, I think, as well.
Well, Faith No More were hot at that time. They're on there. You've kind of got, I think you got Megadeth.
Primus, Megadeth.
Megadeth are doing like, it's basically a piss take of Enter Sandman, because the whole famous story of that Dave Mustaine was in Metallica and he got kicked out. I think because allegedly he kicked James Hetfield's dog and he was an alcoholic and he was completely insane.
That was why.
So he got kicked out of the band, and so I think he did a piss take song, and it's in like I don't like Megadeth. There's some of their riffs are okay, but his voice is horrible.
I couldn't tell you a Megadeth song if you put
I'm
a gun
trying to
to
think
my
who
head.
else is on it. Obviously, you got the Kiss cover.
Kiss, yeah.
It's not Kiss.
And you got Winger.
I'm trying to think
well.
who did the song though. God Gave Rock and Roll to You, because it's not Kiss who wrote it originally.
Isn't it?
No, it's a 70s song by. Let me try and think what it's called.
Apparently, it's a band called Argent,
That's it. Yeah.
who I've never heard of.
That's why the song in the film is called God Gave Rock and Roll to You Too. So,
Oh,
yeah.
well, I've learned something.
When
It's interesting.
When I saw Kiss live, I had my phone ready the whole way through because I was
Just in
getting ready
case.
to film this moment when they played that song. And then when they left the stage, they played it just over the speaker as everyone walked out. I was like, for fuck's sake.
oh, that's a cheap.
Yeah, I was
one.
like,
that doesn't.
But I found out though, like me and Caroline quite jazzed after the Kiss concert because it was really good, and we thought, let's see if there's any online we can watch while we're eating our tea one day. And so we found one from about 10 years prior, and it's exactly the same set. They have been playing the same set for like 20 years. It hasn't changed. They play like Gene Simmons will come out and do his terrible bass solo where he's just like going blah, 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 and he's got like a blood pill in his mouth and he's just spewing blood out.
Paul Stanley's the lead singer. Yeah.
And he's so camp, it's amazing. Like he's like shouting to the crowd because there's a podium like in the middle of the crowd, and he's like, "Do you want me to come and see you?" And they're like, the crowd's like, "Yeah," and he goes, "Well, you've got to invite me over." And then he gets on, like, everyone chants him, and he gets on this little zip line, and he zips onto the middle of this like podium, and he's like rocking out. He's 70-year-old Jewish guy just rocking. It's awesome.
In these big platforms.
Yeah. Oh man, how they walk around those platforms and do all the stuff
know.
they do, I don't know. But yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, where were we?
Yeah, Primus is on that soundtrack as well. They're actually in the film.
Yeah.
They? But
I think a couple of them are in there. I think Primus and another band are in the Battle of the Bands.
The guitarist from Faith No More's in Bogus Journey, who got sacked out of
He
Faith
said
No
at the
More
start, he yells station
for
at the
being
class.
a homophobic asshole. But
Oh, did he?
yeah. Well, I don't know if you know, but the keyboard player in Faith No More is gay. And
I didn't know
apparently it came out that he was a massive homophobe and didn't like being in a band with a gay guy, so they just kicked him out.
Oh, what a twat.
Yeah.
Faith No More.
Well,
At
Faith
least
No
they
More
kicked him
are
out,
good.
actually.
They kicked him out.
Yeah. But yeah, so like it. I don't know. What can you say about Bill and Ted? It's just like.
Did you watch the? I sent you a link to Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter doing their auditions for Bill and Ted.
Oh, cool! I didn't watch it. No.
And they're both originally they were cast as the other characters. So Alex Winter was Ted and Keanu Reeves was Bill, and somehow they just swapped.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
One, the father of our country. Two, the dollar bill guy. Right. Three, born on President's Day. Yeah. And you ever make a mushroom out of his head? Ted, Alaska. Moby Dick. Yeah, Chase Moby Dick. That's Captain Ahab, dude! Oh, yeah. Well... Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, like Disney World. Remember the Hall of Presidents? Yeah, good. What do you say? Welcome to the Hall of Presidents.
They've got this, what's his face? Keanu Reeves is so good as Ted. I love watching him. He's just got this, like lucidity to him. And he's always kind of moving
just
and always like
that
reacting
floppy
to stuff.
kind of
and
that smile he gives, like just that little
and he's always like he's always a hair beats away from being like upset by something, but you can always tell him something nice and he's okay about it. Like, and I love him. I just want him to be here all the time, you know, like. And it's just like they're just these. It's a real 1989 film because it's about these two slackers who have to save the world, kind of, because they don't actually ever do that storyline up until the third film. And like at the start of the film they want to make a band, and at the end of the film they want to make a band, and they can't play any better, but there's more people in the band. That's basically like the character progression of that
It's
film.
a strange film in the fact that it does set up you're going to save the world, but you're actually not going to save the world in the film. The thing you just have to do on this is pass your history test, because otherwise you have to go to military school and the band won't happen.
And it won't happen unless you get through this. Which I can't... It's surprising that I don't think they wrote this with sequels in mind, to be honest. I think they just wrote it as it's kind of a piss take on those kind of 80s family movies, like John Hughes movies, really. It's got a real dysfunctional family element to it, instead of the kind of wholesome family element that you see through stuff.
You've got that awesome scene in Bill's bedroom when, like, you know, his dad's got the young token wife and just gives Bill a load of money just to bugger off so he can kind of so he can get his end away in his bedroom. And
you get that kind of... You get the angry dad who's a cop, and the younger brother who doesn't want to hang out with anyone and stuff. Like that's kind of more what the film is. And then weirdly enough, you got this packed full of this time travel element to it, which is wonderful. Like I just every time I watch Excellent Adventure, I love everything that's happening in that film. I love Billy the Kid. I love how like he just gets used to time travel.
Just straight away, he's just like he's into it. And Socrates as well.
And Socrates is one of the best characters ever written, as far as I'm concerned. I just love how they're friends. I want a film about them as friends. Like, you know, going through time and hitting on girls and stuff like that. Like, I absolutely love them. And a really amusing point that a classicist made. Well, amusing maybe if you're a classicist. But like we don't really know what Socrates said. All his words have been written by other people because he was the teacher of Plato, the teacher of Aristotle.
Yeah. So it's all hand-me-down kind of.
Yeah. And in this film, no one knows what he says either because he doesn't speak. No one speaks ancient Greek. So like, even though we've met Socrates, we still don't actually know anything about what he actually says. It's all translated through people.
All we are is dust in the wind.
Yeah,
dude.
And he's so happy about that. Like, he's so pleased. By it. We've been there. It was most tranquil.
Apparently, where they filmed that sequence, no one ever filmed in there before at all, ever, because it was like kind of a sacred area and stuff like that. But,
wow.
Dino De Laurentiis being who he was, and I think it's shot in Italy. Some of that, like he's Italian.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So he able to sort that out because of who he was and his position. Yeah.
That's really cool, though. And he just got this... the film really works because it's this wide-eyed look at the future. It's this idea that, like, our pop culture and our technology are going to produce, like, a really happy future. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be wonderful and it'll work out. And that the 1989 film is full of that. Like, and it's a real product of when it was made. The 1991 film gets a little more jaded, but still it's there. You've got that kind of idea that they will do this, it will work out. You just have to kind of believe in yourself and be happy, and you can get through all these struggles and you can be there together. And it's just this wide-eyed look at the future, which is absolutely a product of its time, because by the time 2001 comes around, by the time of like
Yeah.
Like that seems like an ancient world post like 9/11 basically. It seems like just such a different idea to the future, that if you wrote a film now, the idea that our pop culture is going to make everyone happy, everyone would just be like, what? Like, like that's not a thing. Let alone like the actual elements of the time travel, just the general kind of feeling of the film is not a film that you make now. Which, you know, the larger point, I love the fact that Bill and Ted's come out now.
Yeah,
like,
especially
and it makes
this
perfect
year
sense to me. Yeah,
when,
yeah,
you know,
totally.
shit has fully hit the fan. And, do you know what? I've seen people who've poo-pooed the new film, and we'll get to it later. But like, it's like, well, this film wasn't made for you. Fuck off. Like, go away. Be cynical somewhere else. I don't want to hear your cynicism.
This film isn't. It's not about cynicism. No, it's not. It's not. Well, it is. It's a little bit like. God, I am such a dork. It's a little bit like Last Jedi, because the film starts with these two characters that just kind of are not believing in themselves anymore. Yeah. Like they kind of do, but they, you know, Ted basically says he's not going to do it anymore at the start of the new film. Even though that quickly goes away. But it is a film that kind of these two people are learning to trust themselves and to trust the fact that they are going to save everything.
I mean, you have to have character progression in a film. That's how it works, you know, because, you know, like in real life, people do go ebbs and flows. Sometimes they are super confident about themselves, and then next week, you know, they may feel really shit. And, you know, Bill and Ted may feel great in the first film. It doesn't mean to say in the second one they feel great. Do you know what I mean? It's just how, you know. So, and
then, like, they kind of meet them at a point when even though they are the most optimistic, happy, lovely people in the world, they've kind of been beaten down by life a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's kind of lovely that it all works out. And I think that's why it works. I don't know.
But anyway, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Excellent Adventure.
I loved Napoleon as well. I thought he was great. And he has his own little adventure.
He has his own little adventure. Sometimes you just need to see Napoleon eat a load of ice cream.
Ziggy piggy, ziggy piggy.
And do you know that was originally meant to be Hitler as well?
What?
Yeah, that was originally meant to be Hitler.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they changed that.
Yep, good change. Good change. They're kind of, the writers were like, this is problematic.
Yeah.
We'll go for Napoleon instead, who's, you know, slightly less modern, problematic character. But I love the fact of Napoleon in it. And I just, like, they were meant to go, because they mentioned Caesar being in the film, so they were meant to go to meet Caesar as well. I think they were originally meant to end up causing his death.
Oh, really?
I think, you know, in the script they call him the salad dressing dude. What they call him at the original bit in the film. And they were meant to befriend a caveman in the historical area.
Well, they do go there, don't they? That's when they fix the time.
They do, yeah, when they're fixing the time thing. I love janky time travel as well.
Yeah,
that's what it, and I love how the phone box kind of just barely holds itself together.
I love the fact they managed to fit all those people in there. It's insane.
It's insane. And there's it's like a Star Trek cast, like who they pull together in Bill and Ted. Like, the whole thing with Star Trek is what Gene Roddenberry always said, is that you're not allowed internal conflict in the crew. That kind of changed after he died. But, like, the fact that they just pull all these people out from different time periods and wildly different cultures and societies, and they all just like each other, and they all just become a band of friends, is like one of my most favourite things to have in a film.
We did forget to sorry, we forgot to mention though, like, we did say it'd be cool if they cast musicians in the film. The girl who played Joan of Arc is Jane Wheldlin, and she was from the Go-Go's.
I didn't know.
So they did cast some musicians. That's cool.
Yeah.
And the guy who plays Genghis Khan is basically in every 80s film, isn't he? In like Big Trouble in Little China and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but he is. Yeah, I'll pull it out. It's is that A or Al?
Al Leong.
Yeah.
I think there's a documentary about him, and it's called like That Asian Guy or something. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. I'm sure there's a documentary about him.
Awesome Asian Bad Guys?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that what it is?
Something like that, yeah.
He's one of, because most of the actors in that aren't really people that I know very well. No,
yeah, I mean,
don't recognise
like you
any
said,
names,
it
really.
had a budget of 6.5 million, I think.
Yeah,
So it's not like they were going to get like name people. George Carlin's the biggest name in the film.
yeah, by far.
Yeah,
And people always say that it was like Keanu Reeves' first film, but that's completely not true. Like he'd worked a ton of films before this.
same
film.
with
He
Alex
just hadn't
Winter. He was like a
Yeah.
child actor, and he was in like Lost Boys, and I think he was in like Death Wish and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's just one of these weird. It's like people always say Sixth Sense is like M. Night's first film, and it's just not true. It's
Yeah.
just one of these things that people just believe because it's the first time they became really popular, and you just think someone this good this must be the first thing they've done, because otherwise I would have known who they were. It's that kind of element.
No, they're
to
that
it.
good because they've worked that.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? They're brilliant in their roles. I think they're so good.
they are. They absolutely nail it, and it's because of them that this film hits
And
as hard as it
does
does. And
annoy
there's
me
no-
when like people say that Keanu Reeves is a bad actor, because he's not. He does get he used to get miscast a lot.
Yeah,
But
he
he's
went for
really-
a time period in the 90s of really trying to be an action hero as well,
Yeah.
which he is. But like,
He's a particular type of action hero.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
the silent type. You don't kind of have him as the quippy kind of. I mean, Speed was good,
Speed's great.
but then
Speed's great, but like
but then
you
you got
get
Johnny
chain
Mon-
reaction.
yeah, Johnny Mnemonic and all that kind of stuff. And,
Johnny Mnemonic.
yeah.
And what I don't know, there's loads of stuff like that. The Devil's Advocate is very misplaced casting.
Yeah,
His accent's all over the place. Famously, like Dracula,
Yeah,
his
Bram
accent's all
Stoker's
over the
Dracula.
place. Then he gets a few really shitty just remakes, like Day the Earth Stood Still and stuff.
yeah.
John Constantine is a weird one. It doesn't, but like he just worked a lot. I think is the thing about Keanu Reeves
Yeah,
compared to other actors.
and I guess like John Wick kind of changed everything for him. I guess.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And The Matrix,
even
obviously.
The Matrix, yeah, like the Matrix.
He's done
completely changed how
enough
people
to
saw him.
secure himself for life that he'll always eventually bag something that will kind of hit. I think, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, of course he'll have the one or two in between that probably don't quite work, but he'll always get those.
Well, I think it's a credit for him for coming back to actually do Bill and Ted.
Yeah,
Not not that you think someone would be too egotistical, but like he's clearly doing it because he loves it. He doesn't need it, as you say.
yeah.
He doesn't need to.
and
do
it's his
anything,
friendship with Alex Winter, because obviously they formed a tight bond making those films, and it's something they were passionate about doing together if they got the right idea to do it, I think.
Yeah. Give it time.
And but it's a shame Alex Winter kind of stopped acting kind of pretty much after Bill and Ted. He did Freaked, which he directed, which is an odd film,
Sure.
but it's a fun film anyway. But then he just went into directing, didn't he? And did a lot of documentaries and stuff like that. And
Yeah, big documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
He did that film about child stars, which was
Yeah.
meant to be really good.
I can't wait for his Frank Zappa one. I think it's going to be awesome.
Oh, really?
And he did
I didn't
one
know he
about
was making one.
he did one about the dark web. as
Oh, he
well.
did. Yeah. He did. Downloaded. I think
Yeah.
it was called, wasn't it?
He also directed the Ben 10 films as well.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was gonna remake The Gate as well, but that never materialised.
Yeah. So he's worked a lot in TV and worked a lot.
Yeah, I think he's a
in, like,
talent.
documentary stuff.
He's a proper talent. Alex
I
Winter
think
is.
so too. It's a proper it's a proper silly thing people say about Bill and Ted is they'll say like one became Keanu Reeves and the other one disappeared from
Yeah.
sight, and it's not true. He just did other things,
And-
like he's a talented guy, did other things.
Again, we'll get back to it later, but like in Face the Music, it did not feel like he had like a 25 plus year absence in acting. Do you know what I mean? He embodied that character straight away, and I did not believe him as Bill for a second.
No, and they feel like equal leads as well.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like the writers had gone, well, Keanu's a huge movie star, so we'll make him the lead of the film. Which you can imagine people doing.
But I have a feeling Keanu Reeves, being who he is, would probably say, I don't want that anyway. Like,
Yeah.
it's got to be equal footing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, if those stories are meant to be true, that he paid, like apparently on the Matrix sequels, he didn't. The money he made from that, he didn't keep it. He gave it all to the stunt crew. And
wow.
And like, you know,
that's so cool.
And there's the stories that he doesn't drive a car, he rides the bus and the train and stuff like that. And he just seems like a very cool dude.
He seems like a really nice guy. And there's the whole like sad Keanu things and stuff like that, like because he's had a bit of a hard life.
Oh yeah, with his past relationships and stuff like that. Yeah.
I do really like him, and there's something about him comes through this character. It's not totally on the page. It isn't. And it's not to take anything away from the writers, who we haven't mentioned yet, but like that's Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon.
Yeah.
Who Chris Matheson ends up writing. I think he did a Goofy movie, I think. And Ed Solomon, you'll know from like Men in Black and Super Mario Brothers as well. Like, you can
definitely tell with Super Mario Brothers that's from the guy that wrote Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and
Men in
Black.
You
can really feel
and actually Freaked, you can like I was watching Bogus doing it today, and Station particularly is absolutely kind of, I reckon this, and the afterlife sequences is so much Alex Winters to me.
Oh well, I mean, Alex Winter plays the granny in Bogus Journey.
Yeah,
and I think it's the same makeup artist from Bogus Journey who did Freaks and then did the old age makeup and the muscle makeup in Face the Music, I think. So there's
awesome.
There's definitely a line that they all it's like Freaks is like Bill and Ted's kind of ugly brother. Do you know what I mean, or something like that?
Yeah. I was watching it, and I never, because knowing Alex Winter a little better now, I was like, I can see his like influence on this beyond just him acting, and I don't know if that's just because he made friends with the set designers or whatever, but like I could see Alex Winters in it as well as seeing Keanu.
Yeah, because Keanu plays the dog boy in Freaked, and like he's not even credited. He's not even credited in the film, and I think that's some sort of rights thing because he wouldn't get paid what he's supposed to get paid, but obviously because of their friendship, he was like, of course I'll do it.
Yeah. And Bill and Ted, I don't know what more to say about the first film. I could talk about it forever, but we have to kind of move on. But like
San Dimas High School football rules.
Interesting things that I learned, because they said they were doing a similar approach to history as Monty Python. They just hired the production designer from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
You can actually see that. That's I can see
absolutely comes through. That's
especially in the medieval scenes, obviously, you know.
Yeah. Which looks exactly the same, really.
I love the fact that Ted rolls down the stairs in his like, you know, they're dressed up as in the suit,
knights,
the suits of armor, and he rolls down the stairs and perfectly falls out of it, and the costume stays intact. It's incredible.
Well, my whole life I've thought about how that works too many times.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, like tried to get the physics in my head to see what the hell's going on here. Like, I don't know what the kind of the chaos that just happens at the end. I love how I love them just tearing through the mall. I love how they all form like friendships, and you can think about the historical characters talking behind the scenes. They feel fully fleshed out, even though they're barely on screen, really. And then like they nail the end, and that's what works with Bill and Ted. Like that history presentation, they nail it. Like it works emotionally, and it works in the film, and works comedically, and that's hard to do.
Apparently the original ending, and they shot it, was just in the classroom, and that's how they were going to do their presentation, but they were like, no, it's got to be like a stage show, it's got to be like a rock show, but like,
yes, it has to,
you know. And apparently there was scenes deleted where there was a dance number at the beginning, and that was cut out, and then there was a prom sequence at the end that was cut out, but you know, all films have like deleted scenes and sequences, don't they?
I can see that doesn't need them. At all. Like,
well, deleted scenes deleted for a reason most of the time. Sometimes it's a mistake, but like Beavis and Butthead has got an amazing deleted sequence where Beavis uses the what's the Constitution? What's it called? You know,
the American Constitution.
Yeah, he wipes his ass with that basically. And that was deleted from the film, but it's a really good little sequence, and for some reason they deleted it.
There is a character that's still in the credits in Bill and Ted called John the Surf, and they picked him up from the medieval period, and he had a running gag throughout the whole film about pudding cups. and that was completely taken out of the film. But he's still credited.
How did they delete him in the film when he's not in the wide shots of them? Like when they're like all in the phone box and they're all kind of
yeah.
And then the bit where they're all cleaning the house and like bombarding the
Well, my favourite bit that I quoted to you today when they land in the garden and they're just giving different names to them. Yeah. Like, this is Dave Beethoven, Maxine Navarre, Herman the Kid, Bob Genghis Khan, and Socrates Johnson.
That's my favourite.
Dennis Boyd and Abraham Lincoln. And talking of the Abraham Lincoln guy, like he's in my head Abraham Lincoln, apart from Daniel Day-Lewis. Like those are the two actors in my mind that can do Abraham Lincoln, and there's no one else. And if I ever think about him, I think about this actor. Him running away in the mall because the photographer wants his hat back.
So, like, after this film, I know they were like, obviously it was a success. So
yeah, it was a huge.
I think one of the ideas that was put on the writers to make was like they go inside books or something like that instead of like time traveling. But I don't think they were obviously keen on doing like rehashing the same idea. I think the idea was they had to do a book. They had to do a book report, so they go inside books and take the characters or whatever out of books.
Okay.
But then in the interim between the films, there was a live action TV series.
Oh, I want to talk about these. I love the history of this.
I watched a bit of it and it looks awful, and they seem a bit more mean spirited. Than
they definitely are.
Do you know what I mean?
No, it's really. Do you know? Because there was at one point in 1990, there were two shows running that are both called Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures.
One was a cartoon.
And one was the cartoon, and one was the live action. The weird thing about the cartoon is that the original cast was
the first series, not the second series.
Yeah. But what happened after the first series, because it was produced by Hanna-Barbera in 1990, and then it was produced by Warner Bros. Was it Warner Bros. Or Fox? No, it was Fox.
Yeah.
For 1991. And because they had their live-action show coming, they replaced the original actors with the actors in the live-action show to do the voices.
Oh, is that who does the voice in the cartoon? Okay. So there is a continuity there, then.
So there is a continuity, yeah. But also in 1991, Bogus Journey was coming out. So the showrunners of Bogus Journey basically argued with Fox to say, you're not allowed to release the new cartoon or the live action show until we hit a certain box office on Bogus Journey, because you'll affect our return.
Oh, okay.
So eventually they do, and they push out the cartoon, which gets cancelled before the sitcom the live action show hits the air.
So which version's that? The Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter one, or the
the new one with the new voice act cast?
Because the actual animation style, it looks very similar. There's a slight
variation.
It is. Yeah, it's very similar.
It's a slightly more cartoony or something. There is or I don't know how to word it, but yeah, it's slightly different. So yeah, that gets cancelled before they even get on the air for the live action one, and then the live action one has 7 episodes and one unshowing pilot, which comes on, and yeah, it flops hard.
I mean, if anyone wants to watch it, there's a 3-hour cut on YouTube of like all of them put together of the live action one, and it's pretty awful.
It's
really
the idea. I mean, it makes sense. The idea of the cartoon and the live action show is basically there's a different plot each week, a different thing that Bill and Ted have to solve for school, and then go through time to fix it. Basically,
it's a bit kind of Saved by the Bell, I guess, isn't it? Kind of that kind of vibe.
It's a perfectly fine idea for a show, but the TV show, the live action one, had no budget at all, and so there's nothing they can really do.
Yeah,
and it's weird that they thought they could do more in a live action show than a cartoon with no budget.
I remember there was one episode of the cartoon where they actually go inside of a TV show, and it's black and white, and then it starts to become colour as it goes on.
So Pleasantville.
Yeah, exactly. Pleasantville before Pleasantville.
There's an episode of the live action show where they go to the 1930s and everything's in black and white, and Bill and Ted see everything in black and white too. And then they go back to the future with a character from the 1930s, and she's in black and white in the future.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Maybe I'm a bit confused, but maybe that's.
It's weird anyway. doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that was dumb. But to be fair to whoever did Ted, I actually think he gets the mannerisms and voice of Keanu actually okay-ish.
He doesn't have the Ted hair though, because apparently there's a thing called Ted hair where Keanu Reeves would like he'd have to like there's certain scenes in the first film that Keanu Reeves isn't happy with because he hadn't perfected his Ted hair. And then apparently before each take he had to do something perfectly with his hair, and that's how he got that little mushroom kind of effect.
Yeah.
And that's what he calls his Ted hair. The other guy hasn't got Ted hair. The
No,
girl in the new film definitely has Ted hair.
Yeah, you're right. I like his hair in the new film. I think it looks good.
Yeah. There was also a toy line as well, which I have to mention. Which
was there? Okay.
Yeah, it didn't really come out here, but apparently, like if you squeeze their legs together, it moves their arm, and they do like a little guitar motion, and the guitars could plug into a cassette tape player that would have the Bill and Ted like theme music on it. And so every time you squeeze their legs, a bit of the music would burst out of this like little speaker.
That's insane.
But yeah, so you could collect a band. So you got Billy the Kid, Death, Bill and Ted, Genghis Khan. You can get all Abraham Lincoln and stuff like that.
No way! I would have been all over that.
Oh, I would have. They're so expensive if you want to try and get them now. Like ridiculously expensive.
Imagine, yeah. But yeah, there's something so special about the Bill and Ted. I mean, as someone who's kind of obsessed with history, time travel movies are always really like big for me. But there's something so special about Bill and Ted being just so lovely but funny.
Yeah, and
just it's the interaction with the history without the consequences, which is so fun to me. Whereas any time travel movies, like we can't talk to Socrates.
Yeah, you can't.
Like,
you can't do that.
You'll change the future and whatever, and it's doesn't matter in this. Whatever time travel laws they have, which is kind of like Looper.
Yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
It just doesn't matter, and that's great. I love it. Like, and you can meet Beethoven and whatever. But then, so we're talking about like big swings. Then they do Bogus Journey, which is a big swing.
This is what I love about this film, because I love it when a film franchise will do a sequel that is nothing like the original one, but the characters still remain the same. Yeah, you just throw them in a whole.
They're a little more, as you say, they're a little more grungy. They're a little more kind of edge. There's a little more edge to them as they've grown up.
Yeah, but they're still lovable, and they're still very.
Yeah, no, they are.
You know, they're still goofballs and stuff. But there's hardly any time traveling. I think there's only time travel a bit at the beginning and a bit at the end. Yeah,
there's a bit of the kind of is it bootstrap time travel? Yeah. So they're going back, but you haven't seen it to change something that's happening in the present.
Yeah, to put a bag above the head so it knocks them out, and that kind of, the guns available and whatever, all that kind of stuff, which they do.
But it makes sense because they don't have the ability to time travel. They were just given it by Rufus in the first film. It's not like he left them a phone box to time travel at any time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So I like the fact they didn't just basically do every kind of, because it was a quick sequel. There's only 2 years between them. Most sequels would just kind of do the first film again.
Well, yeah, don't forget though, it had been 5 years since they had actually shot the first one though, because of the whole delay and stuff like that. So there was a big gap in terms of them playing that character.
But in terms of them just writing it, to make a sequel, the studio pushing it out. They get it out quickly, and because it's quick, Stephen Herrick doesn't return. They get Peter Hewitt in, and Peter Hewitt's the guy that you were thinking of because he directed The Borrowers.
That's it, yeah. So, he's
Thunderpants.
Yeah, so I think
Garfield the movie.
He's a British filmmaker, and I think he'd only done a short film at that point. But I think it was
he had. It was called the Candy Show, and it was actually won a BAFTA.
But I think it was very production heavy, and I think that's what they liked, because they were going to go into hell and stuff like that, and they really wanted that stylized kind of hell with the forced perspectives and stuff like that, and they really wanted to kind of have someone who had the ability to pull that off. I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
I think he does a great job of it. The stuff that's shot in hell is got such a vision to it, and such and it's such a kind of exact look to it that it's why the film works is that they cared. What I hate about the sequel, and it annoys me every time I watch it, is the future clothes.
Yeah,
the foam clothes.
The future in the first film is quite dark but golden and blue.
Yeah.
Whereas this one's kind of very foamy and kind of
it's really foamy and
so bulky
like beige,
and weird. And it looks like they're at the Power Rangers command center or something like that when they're at, or it's a bit Star Trek-y, like the kind of.
It's a little bit Star Trek-y, yeah, absolutely. It's weird. There's not much about the production of this film. I don't think it's like the first film where they kind of went out their way to kind of try and push for a film. You're getting for a quick, it's a quick release schedule.
Well,
they're in the studio system at that point. Like, I
think it's like from the time they shot the film to when it was released, it was like 4 or 5 months, and I think. It was from the initial we're making this till it's released. It was just like insane the speed they had to go at.
Yeah,
to make
I can imagine. And because of that, you get one of the kind of characters from the film is because of that kind of rush schedule in that station. And that's because they cut a scene in the script that was meant to be, it was int police station, and they cut it and left the word station on the page by accident. And basically the writers just kept on yelling station to each other because they laughed that it was in the script, and it eventually started becoming high-pitched in like a Martian voice. And at some point they named a character station because of that. I'm
pretty sure the ending of the film is totally different. So there was no good robots. The station, the characters weren't in it. And originally, when they got back from hell, the Colonel and the Easter Bunny, they all come out of hell and they start attacking Bill and Ted in the van and stuff like that. And so, but they're like more aggressive, and Bill's grandmother, but they're like more aggressive versions of themselves. So they're kind of like a real evil bunny and like real evil granny and stuff like that. And that
wasn't there a Marvel comic?
Yeah, which has got that
adapted that script. Yeah. Right, okay.
So they shot.
Have you got that?
All this exists, but apparently it didn't test well, so they reshot the ending. The whole of the station stuff in heaven, I think, was all new.
Wow.
The making the robots, then the Battle of the Bands. It was so basically the last 40-30 minutes of the film was completely reshot within the space of a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And you're talking like within a couple of weeks of the film opening.
That's incredible, actually, because the heaven stuff. We haven't mentioned Bill Sadler yet, who nails the death roll so hard. I don't think
it's a perfect addition for this franchise, which you never would have thought is a character you'd have ever needed in Bill and Ted. But
who comes on to make a Bill and Ted sequel and just mainly riffs on Ingmar Bergman. It's like it's insane that they decided to do that, and it works so hard.
Well, again, I sent you a video of William Sadler in a sitcom not a sitcom, like a.
Was it a commercial?
I don't know if it's a commercial or like a sketch show, and he plays death in a scene, and he does that voice. So it was like he's waited for this role all his life to do this. It's like, yes, I can finally do it now.
Is this apartment number 9, S. Solomon's?
Sure. Are you the plumber?
No, I am Death.
Well, I'm Sally. Come on in. Hey, you into aerobics?
No, I'm Death. I've come to take you.
Okay.
No, I mean I have come to take you away.
Oh, sure. I'll pack some things.
Don't I scare you? Aren't you afraid just a little bit?
Are you kidding? With that weirdo makeup?
It is not makeup. I am naturally pale. I have been dead for 1,000 centuries.
Wait a minute. Can I fix you a drink?
I have no thirst.
Pickle sandwich?
How dare you! I am the most awesome and terrifying figure in mankind's experience. And you dare to offer me a pickle sandwich?
Speaking of awesome, did you see Jack Nicholson in the Playgirl Centerfold? He made the staple sit up.
I am not interested in Jack Nicholson. Yet.
That's your mistake. Hey, listen, think positive.
Think positive. Don't be ridiculous. I am Death.
I have no words to explain how good he is. And if you've seen it, you know how good he is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking when you're saying they reshot the heaven stuff, I love the heaven stuff for the Death character is what makes it for me.
Every rose
when he's,
has a thorn.
Yeah. Do I know you?
No.
And like without that bit, because what happens in that heaven bit is that Death goes from like a grumpy guy who's obviously a bit petty to kind of getting on board,
yeah, just fully
with
on
these
board.
guys,
and
like wanting to help them. Like, yeah, and I love it so much. And there's a little bit in heaven where they're talking to Station, and Death isn't got nothing to do, so like he wanders off and starts talking to Ben Franklin. And when they're leaving, they kind of yell over to Death, like, "Come on, Death!" And like Death kind of signals to Ben Franklin, kind of, "I'm sorry, I gotta go." Like you don't hear him say anything. It's total just acting work. It's total just the fact on set that he had nothing to do, so I'll just hang over here. It cannot be like written on the script that way, and it just absolutely works for this character. Just like Excellent Adventure, these funny little characters, like history characters, they become like fully formed by like being on screen in that way. And there's no way Bogus Journey would have worked without Bill Sadler.
Yeah, he creates a duo into a trio, and it's just, you know, like,
yeah.
So when you see the third one, you are missing him for a good chunk of the movie, and then when he comes in, you're like, it feels right now. It feels right
now. Thank God he's back. Yeah. And it's so weird how, like, you know, Death becomes a character in this.
But I just love the way they did that. Like, you know, going back to Star Trek, you know, they go to the area from the famous Star Trek scene, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They do, yeah.
And, you know, they're chucked off the... I actually love... You can tell when it's a Shemp Bill and a Shemp Ted. Like, the hair...
That's a good term.
Like, the hair of each character just looks totally wrong. But,
you should explain Shemp for anyone who doesn't know what that means.
Right, is it the Three Stooges or is it the...
Yeah, I think it's the Three Stooges.
So they had a brother called Shemp, I think.
Yeah.
Who was never, like, in the Three Stooges, but if ever they needed, like, an extra or a double, he would be the double, like, from the back.
Yeah, well, it's not that he was never in the Three Stooges. He was always in
it,
but he was never as a fourth brother. Yeah. He was playing one of the other brothers,
And so fake Shemp then comes from Sam Raimi, who then, in Evil Dead, I think there was lots of issues with actors and stuff like that, with unions and rights and stuff, so he couldn't get certain people back, so he'd get his brother Ted Raimi to basically wear costumes and kind of double as actors and actresses, and they called him the fake Shemp. So,
yeah, they called it like Shemping and the fake Shemp, which is just wonderful. And it's like, I love how like people like use that term now.
We use it all the time.
Yeah,
I think you fake Shemped everyone in Aim for the Dead.
Yeah, that's my job. And Aim for the Dead, I was mainly people cleaning my hands in toilets.
Yeah, and that's not because of blood. That was just because of where we were filming.
No, yeah. What was it? Think else about the weird thing about? I don't like the fact that I don't like George Carlin in it too much. I wish that he was a bit more present in it, but I can see why.
Yeah,
he
I
doesn't
agree.
Fit
Yeah.
It's one of those films. It's definitely not as good as Excellent Adventure, but it's such a wild swing that I love it, and I've seen it so many times. I can quote it as much as maybe Excellent Adventure.
I will agree that Excellent Adventure is a better film, but I prefer Bogus Journey. And I don't know if that's just because I saw it at the cinema, and so just like nostalgia for me is just rife with this film. And also just the production design is so out there, and it just kind of swings. Like sometimes it misses, but it just goes for it. You've got Station, these two fucking bogey looking aliens that join together to form this. Why it's better that there's one station to build the robots than having the two stations.
I'm so glad you said that.
Wouldn't it make more sense to have one station, and then when they've got to build the robots, it separates into the two?
They split into two, yeah. I think this every time.
I love that scene though when they're shopping for all the bits, and like
Jeff
going around, he says, "I'll see you soon." Because there's a guy smoking in the aisles.
There's a bit when they're good.
I made the wigs.
Yeah, I made the wigs. And I did the shopping. I pushed the cart. Oh, it's so damn good. I also love Bill and Ted for introducing me to the word usses as a thing, and I love the fact that they use the word usses in the third one all the time as well. Like, it's just become a word like that you never have a need to say, but because of Bill and Ted, it's the thing. It's like the good robot usses or the bad robot usses or usses from that time period.
I love it in these
really
films
love
when
it.
they interact with themselves. So in the first one, they interact with themselves, don't they? You know,
Yeah,
69 dudes.
At
And the
the
way they
Circle K.
write that in the first one is great. And then in this one, it's with the evil versions of them, and it's so good. And like,
It is. It's wonderful.
like when they first come into the apartment at the beginning, and then later on when they're kind of playing basketball with each other's heads and stuff like that in their bedrooms. It's so good. And like how they decide how, like at the end, the evil ones just accept their fate like so easily. They even tilt their heads up to get punched in the head.
They're like, well, you won.
Yeah.
Like, it's so odd. And like the kind of Pam Grier role's a bit. I always think it's a bit odd in that.
I always forget it's Pam Grier. Like, it's so bizarre that it's Pam Grier.
It's weird. It's a weird thing to think that Rufus did. Like, that's why I always think like he could have done something different.
Also,
but it doesn't matter.
Also,
it's just always think about.
It's weird that Missy now all of a sudden is channeling she's trying to speak to the dead and stuff like that. And you're like, wait, what's going on?
But it's so the difference between an 80s film and a 90s film, even though it's like 2 years.
Yeah.
It becomes that bigger production design, that kind of more wackier, wilder music. You know, more like Nickelodeon element, MTV element to it. Like in the way the shows they produce were always a bit kind of grosser and a bit louder, weird colours and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the spiritualism stuff as well is so like 90s, like the new agey kind of things and stuff that was coming out at that time. It all incorporates that really oddly, and it does. Like we said earlier, you get the hair metal in the first thing, and then it's more grunge in the sequel.
You've got Winger in this as well. You've got Steve Vai doing the Reaper, and Steve Vai is kind of like what do you call it? He's like a what kind of stuff does he? It's like a riffy kind of prog rocky industrial rock kind of stuff, isn't it?
I can't explain Steve Vai if I'm honest.
You know, I'm trying to think. There's the Reaper rap as well that Steve Vai does as well.
And what I didn't really realise until really recently actually was the song they play at the end of the film isn't God Gave Rock and Roll. God Gave Rock and Roll just plays over what they play.
Oh really?
Yeah, and if you watch it again, you realise they're playing a completely different song, and they're playing like the intro to it, but they don't sing when the lyrics sing or anything like that.
Okay.
And they don't finish when the song finishes or anything like that. And it's absolutely that the song comes in to just bring the credits on rather than that's meant to be what they're playing. And apparently what they're doing is they're playing a Steve Vai guitar solo. So
that would make sense, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense of him involved in the film.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, like, word from, to say, like, TV tropes type thing, word from God is that God gave rock and roll to you was never meant to be the song they sing to unite the world. And they didn't really like the end credits too much because they didn't like all the kind of newspapers.
Yeah, that was like a studio thing, put those on, I think, didn't they?
Because they try and basically get back to the whole plot that they're meant to save the world. And they kind of jam it into the credits to try and pretend that the song they played at the end of this saved the world. But it doesn't really work. And they kind of smartly ignore it a little bit for the third film. That's the only thing they do kind of ignore, is a lot of the papers.
What I do like, though, at the end of the film is, though, they travel in time to learn music, don't they?
Yeah,
and
they do. Yeah,
and by the time you get to the third one, while what you see them performing at the wedding is odd. You can tell that they're actually talented musicians now.
Yeah. I love how it basically takes them like 2 films to learn how to play music.
Yeah, but they are talented. And actually, if you listen to the soundtrack, it's actually not that bad.
Okay.
I actually quite like it. Anyway, what do you think of the look of them when they come out, when they, like Bill's all ZZ Top and...
I have to say, I always thought they looked really cool.
And Ted's got the little goatee and they've got the babies and stuff like that.
I love Keanu Reeves looking this one anyway. Like, it's little less of the mushroom hair, a little more like long fringe.
Well, Bill definitely hasn't got the little crop top.
No, he doesn't.
Which I always thought was weird in the first one. But,
works.
But when I was younger, my sister had like a box of fabric, and I tried to make myself an orange hoodie with a red overcoat to make the Ted with the smiley face on the back, and I drew round myself on the floor on cardboard, and then drew round it on.
Sure.
And with my 7-8-year-old, this is a true story. I tried to sew my own Ted jacket, and I remember putting it on, and it was so tight, it was ridiculous.
I want to get you a Ted jacket now. I'm sure someone
I had some of the comic books that kind of followed on from Bogus Journey, and Ted's like I said, Ted's got a smiley face on his back of his jacket. It emotes in the comic books. Whenever you see his back, it kind of, whatever's happening on screen, it kind of, the face changes.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that idea. That's good. What we're doing. So yeah, Bogus Journey comes out. It doesn't really make as much money as Excellent Venture.
It makes $2 million less, but the budget was like $20 million. So
it's more than double. Yeah. So it's not incredibly successful. But that's unfair to it because it became incredibly successful post it, really.
I mean, it made its mark on me.
Yeah, it made its mark on definitely our generation of people who wanted to see it. Like, the reviews at the time were a little sniffy about it. It was just a film that didn't totally hit at the time, I think, compared to like other people and things, which meant that basically the idea of doing a third one kind of just went away. It went away, but it didn't ever really go away.
Yeah, isn't nostalgia a powerful thing?
Yeah, isn't it? Just so I think like they've always said there was no immediate plans for a sequel. And then it wasn't really until 2005 where there started being chatter about it again.
Well, I remember I got a DVD box set, and it was like the 15th anniversary box set or something. I don't know if you got it, and it was like, kind of looks a bit like a phone box and stuff.
Oh,
and there's some like interviews in there, and they say we're at the early stages of tinkering with ideas for a third one. So it's definitely been a long gestating project, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the director Dean Parasot, who ends up directing it, he was attached
long time ago
from 2010ish or something like that. I think.
You have to have a director on board, though, really, especially one that's kind of he did like Galaxy Quest, Fun with Dick and Jane. So you've got someone who can handle a film and handle a film with budget, I guess.
Yeah, and stars.
Yeah, and stars.
Yeah. So he was a good choice, actually. I think the writers were very concerned about doing another film that would just be kind of for the money or just for nostalgia. I think they wanted to get something right out of it. So they weren't really rushing a script out. And I think was it John Wick that kind of got them the power to do this?
Probably because I guess so, because it became like a number one film, like the second and third film, like I guess was like box office gold, and for the budget that it probably cost, they realised they can make a film for X amount of money with Keanu Reeves and it'd probably sell, I guess. I don't know. Is that right?
I think so. I think, and also what they were doing is, while doing press for John Wick, Keanu was talking about Bill and Ted as well.
Well,
so
I guess
it started kind of.
I guess a lot of the people who probably are talking to him, the press, they're probably people our age, and they probably want to get their Bill and Ted question in, and they know it's like a buzzworthy thing. So if they put it on their headline on a website or whatever, people are going to click on it because it says Bill and Ted, and it's now around the time where it's nostalgia's kicking and people are going, oh yeah, Bill and Ted, I loved that film when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Eventually it gets its way to Steven Soderbergh, who takes on executive producer.
I think
powers,
that's nuts.
And I think it's nuts too. And that's the point when it kind of goes, right, this is happening, really.
If I remember, they did that press thing about 2 years ago, and I think it was to kind of gauge the reaction of the media. And there was pictures of Keanu and Alex like in a phone booth, and they were kind of like talking about being in the film. And I think it was around that time that it just went super viral. And I think because I don't think they had the funding at that point. And I think after doing this, it cemented it that people really wanted this film. Yeah, there was an audience for it, and so they were like, okay, we can actually make this film now.
And I think that by that point, William Sadler was
very clever
as well. Yeah, they definitely did it in a really smart way to get kind of through Hollywood, like on their own terms as well, not just on the terms of whatever company put the money up. They always said they didn't want to cast George Carlin again, recast Rufus, so they bring in Kirsten Shaw to play like the Rufus role.
One of my big gripes with the film, and it's not fair to be annoyed about this. But when they were like touting this film, when they were promoting before they got the funding and stuff, and they're like, people were saying, how are you going to deal with Rufus not being in the film? And they go, well, we've got this scene where it's going to be the quick mark from the first film. We're going to use old footage from the film. We're going to have the actors from, the modern day Keanu and Alex meeting them. We're going to have a CGI Carlin. And we're going to re-tie it in all together. And I was really looking forward to that scene in the film. Yeah. And when it didn't happen in the film, I was a bit like, oh. But I understand that it would have cost a fortune to do that.
Yeah, it's reading up today. Basically, they absolutely wanted to do that, and it was absolute budget.
And I think the crux of the scene was there's a quote in the stopwatch that they have, and I think it's I think it's a George Carlin quote. And I think that's what his character was going to kind of say in that scene. And so that's what the whole stopwatch is about with the clock on it.
I see.
And that's kind of how they got around it, the cheaper way.
I love the stopwatch element of this film. Yeah. I also love it in Excellent Adventure. I like the idea that you've got a time travel movie with a time limit.
Yeah.
Is really smart. Don't think about it too hard. That's most Bill and Ted. But it's really smart that it gives a kind of it gives a ticking clock to a time travel thing, where really the problem with most time travel films is that there's no ticking clock. You can always just jump at another point. Yeah, doesn't matter.
I wonder if it's in real time when it's.
Yeah. I like it. It really works for me. That's kind of most of the production stuff really that I know of.
Yeah.
More than anything else, they obviously went out their way to bring in a lot of the original actors they could.
Yeah, they got Missy back.
Ted's dad, Missy got back. Yeah, like.
I wonder why Bill's dad is he passed or?
I don't know that actually.
I was wondering how they were going to tackle the Missy situation because in the end credits of the second film, obviously, which is not counted as canon, it says that Missy marries Delominus, what's his name? Which we never talked about, but he's the villain in the second film.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that in Bogus Journey. There is actually a villain that barely interacts with Bill and Ted.
Yeah, until the very end.
Until the very end, yeah. Nazi gym teacher, I believe, is his character. Like.
But so it
played
says,
by what's his face as well. Quite a.
It's what's his name?
Joss Ackland.
Ackland, that's his name.
Yeah, English actor who got a BAFTA for his role in White Mischief.
But I think his disdain of the characters in Bogus Journey was pretty much met with his disdain for Alex Winter, Keanu Reeves, and that film in general. Like, I think the way he was acting in that film was just how he was on the set.
Just how he felt, generally.
Like, why am I doing this? Do I need the money that much that I'm doing this film? Apparently so.
Apparently so. Yeah, and the joke about Missy that always makes me laugh in the first two films as well is the fact that she's had a relationship with every single person in the film.
Yeah.
Like,
Ted and Bill tried to ask her out.
Yeah, when she comes in to watch the history presentation and she says hi to the history teacher.
Oh, there's something happened there.
There's something happened there. At the beginning of Bogus Journey where they're having the weird engagement party. No, it's a birthday party for the princesses. The happy 522nd birthday or something.
Yeah, no one's questioning that at this point.
No one's questioning. And for some reason, which I think is really weird, but for some reason the general from the Alaska military school has come to this birthday party.
I know.
just to kind of attack Bill and Ted, who, as far as I know, are not in school anymore. So I'm not totally sure why he's still threatening to go to military school, but whatever. But yeah, Missy says hi to him in a way like they used to date as well. So there's always a joke that Missy seems to have dated every single person.
Well, there's a scene earlier on in the first film where I think in Bill's bedroom, and she's like asking who their history teacher is, and she goes, "Oh, tell him hi."
Tell him hi, yeah.
Which makes me laugh because my history teacher at school got with one of the A-level students and they had a child together.
That's awful.
I know. This is what happens. In, like,
awful.
Apparently, it was just frowned upon in the early 2000s. But the sad thing was, he was a really good teacher and I really liked him. And then that happened. I was like, oh, in like, not a hero, but in like
you're just disappointed.
Just straight away, I was like, what the fuck? Anyway, Bill and Ted.
That's not.
No,
that's not. I don't like that at all.
No,
I barely like the fact that it jokes about it in Bill and Ted, but now like it actually is a thing.
Apparently, they're still together, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it's still abusive.
Oh yes, I'm not saying it's not. I wasn't saying that.
Moving on. So they. Yeah, where were we? Where were we? I guess Bill and Ted Face the Music. That's where we are.
Oh yes, I just wanted to talk about this scene because it still bugs me that it's not in the film, and I get it because of budget. But did you see the Walmart advert where it's kind of like all these famous people and characters are shopping at Walmart, and they have Bill from Face the Music. They have the phone box drop. And Bill gets out, and a young Bill gets out, and it's like a digitally de-aged Bill. And it looks amazing, like so good. And I was like, I can't wait. I was so excited. I was like, I can't wait for this scene. And I was just watching the whole movie waiting for it. I was like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And
I didn't know about that.
And in the credits, there is credited young Bill and young Ted, but they're never in the film. So maybe there is something that existed and just like got cut out or what, I don't know.
It makes sense. It does absolutely make sense. Is in the whole film.
But I did like how they utilised Rufus, how he got like a little bit in it. And I thought it worked well.
I like that too. And as you say, he looms over the film. It's all about Rufus's idea that he's obsessed with this legacy that no one else really believes, which I think that really works for the plot.
Yeah, definitely.
And to cut to the end, the scene where like Kirsten Shaw's mom, so Rufus's wife, actually says to like Kelly that, "Oh, your dad would have been proud of you." I was like, "Oh," like so that really works for me. Like
I think Kelly is the name of George Carlin's real daughter. I think
that's right.
So I think that's
Helen
kind
Carlin,
of where
yeah.
But, so what do you think of like the new characters in it? So what's the name of the robot? Is it Dennis?
Dennis, is it?
He's got a surname.
Dennis Caleb McCoy.
Why does the robot have a name?
I was going to talk about this. We should go through the plot beat by beat to make sure we don't forget things. But like at Dennis Caleb, when he introduces himself to Kelly Rufus. I just realised Rufus hasn't got a surname. I was going to call her Kelly Carlin. She goes, "Oh, fucking my ex-boyfriend's called that. Like, of course Mom would name him after my ex-boyfriend." Is there a suggestion it is her ex-boyfriend who's been, like, turned into, like, death machine?
Maybe. Possibly.
I really think it's in the plot.
I need to rewatch that. I never really thought about that. Maybe. Because he's got...
Dennis Caleb's... Go for it, go on.
I was going to say, his bottom jaw is human. He's kind of... He's got human emotions because he feels regret.
Yeah. He's like a killer, and it's like his programming snaps, and he's slowly remembering things about himself.
Yes, that's quite dark.
And that's when he starts. And he starts going, "Oh wait, I've got a name," and says a name.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
This is slow suggestion. He's like some weird.
He's such an odd
like
design.
She took her ex. Yeah, he is such an odd design. It's such a specific design.
It must be a reason why he's got a human face. I mean, I don't know.
Like, yeah, if they wanted to, they could have hidden the human face properly.
I think he looks pretty shit and janky, but I also think that's probably
start of the design
purposefully so as well.
Yeah, I think so too. But I that's why it's explicitly not said, but I feel like it's all through all the dialogue and him as a character. It's all there that he's actually a human that like got his brain wiped or something.
God,
to be a
that's
robot,
really
so,
grim.
like...
But I actually liked his character though.
I love it. Really cracks me up. The bit when they first get to hell and he pops his head in and says, I can't remember what he says now, but he pops his head when they're looking around and he says something as well. And they're both kind of annoyed with him. Really cracked me up.
It's when he gives his apology in the police car at the end.
Oh, it really cracked me up. So the film starts and you kind of in 2020, so it is taking place at this point. Well, the film starts actually with a bit of a narrative, doesn't it? It's their daughters are saying, this is the last time you saw our dads. They were rocking out, and since then this has happened, and not a lot has happened, basically. Yeah. They became a big rock band. They got a #1 song, and then they couldn't really follow it up. Is kind of what you get from it. There is a really cool bit of artwork which I thought you might like. It's the Wild Stallions logo with the horses coming out.
Oh yeah,
and you got the stylized band below it, and Station is in the band there. So it's the only reference to Station that I saw.
It's a shame Station wasn't in the film. They have one little reference to Station later on.
Yeah, Kid Cudi, yeah.
But
which I liked.
But it's a shame Station as a character wasn't in it briefly.
But is he dead?
Mate, could be, maybe.
Because he's meant to be dead, isn't he? So
yeah, because he was in. Yeah, because he was in.
He was in heaven.
That's the thing I never think I understood about it. Anyway.
But yeah, so they explain that they had this big hit and they thought they're going to write a song to save the world, and they never did. And then the world kept on going on, but the world started to kind of fracture. And then you cut to Bill and Ted at this wedding where you find out that it ends up being Missy marrying Deacon, which is Ted's brother. And Bill and Ted are like going to play a song for the wedding, basically,
which they think possibly could be the song that unites the world. I
yeah.
guess. Did you?
Yeah, they're still obsessed with writing this mystical song.
I was kind of wondering if Missy was going to be married to death or something, but I guess they kept it in the family.
They kept it in the family, yeah.
Why is the dad even at the wedding? Surely.
I love this world where no everyone has emotions, but like not that heavily.
Yeah. And like Deacon and his dad work together.
Oh yeah, they do, don't they? Because he's a cop. Deacon's a cop, isn't he? Yeah. And I'm trying to think what happens. So yeah, they play some music. They're kind of shitty. They go back home, and then they have. Is it therapy first before they go back home?
Yeah, the therapy. I really like that scene. No, they go home. Yeah, they go to the therapy session.
Yeah,
and this is when they keep saying "We love you."
Yeah, which is an absolute play on the fact that in Bogus Journey there's all this suggestion of like polyamory.
Yeah.
As well.
Will you marry us? Like that.
Yeah. Do you think the princesses are going to be happy to move in with us when they get married? And they still keep it on for this, that they can't separate themselves as like away from their own couple. The only thing I don't really like about this film is that they don't give the princesses enough to do. I would have liked to have seen a bit more of their journey.
Yeah, it's different actors in each film, isn't it? I think
it is. Yeah. But they're the people that get to play the princesses in this are both American actors who have both been in quite a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely seen them in stuff before, especially
Erin
Bill's
Hayes
wife.
and Jamila Mays, I think her name is.
Yeah.
Are both really funny actresses, both in a lot of stuff. I think Children's Hospital I know Erin Hayes from, and I think
the comedy show. Children's Hospital.
Yeah. And Jamila Mays is in loads of like comedy films and stuff like that. But they're American actresses. They get them to do English accents, which fine, but it works. It's fine. But I just would have liked to see more of their adventure, because they have a whole off-screen adventure going through different realities.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if the film was like 15, 20 minutes longer, they probably could have put a bit more of that in.
Which it doesn't need to be either, though. Yeah. It is a nice length to it.
I mean,
but
I still would have probably preferred more Bill and Ted in this film, if I'm perfectly honest. But
sure,
it is what it is. But
Yeah, so they have therapy. The princesses are upset with them because they haven't done anything with their lives. They go back home, and at this point, you get the proper like spit where they are basically about to quit on their kind of life goal.
Yeah.
At that point, Kelly from the future arrives. You know, the call to the question.
I like how the phone box is. I don't know if they chose the phone box in the first film because it wouldn't have seen him out of place in the 80s when he goes back in time. So so I assume that's why it was a phone box. And so what they normally travel in is weird egg things or something.
Yeah, but in the first film, it's like that weird crystal orange thing.
Oh yeah.
That's what it looks like. So I always thought like. It does look nice, I like the weird egg thing. It looks very comfortable to travel in.
It does, doesn't it? And apparently it's got a whole sound system in there as well.
Yeah, apparently it's like a TARDIS. It really is like a TARDIS now. Like, Kelly gives them the kind of ultimatum that the great leader, who is her mom, who is played by Holland Taylor, I believe.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, who's in a ton of stuff. Like, what do I know from 2.5 Men? She plays the mom in 2.5 Men.
I've never once watched that show, and you couldn't pay me to watch it. You do get the Rufus cameo though, when they kind of
they go to the future and they have the Rufus cameo.
What did you think of the look of the future, by the way?
I liked it. It fit into the first film for me.
It's very Apple, isn't it? Like, and I imagine for a lower budget film, if you've got to generate a completely CGI environment, it's going to be a lot easier to do that kind of very stark, clear, white kind of.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? That kind of texture, as opposed to like, you know, multiple buildings that are all built that look different and stuff like that. It's kind of, if it looks all quite generic and kind of clean, then it's probably easier to kind of
a bit easy to get through.
Create,
yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Makes sense.
Cheaper.
Yeah, because the budget for this was only like 25 million,
which in today's money,
a lot of money,
is nothing
but
for a film like with one of the biggest actors in the world in it, and you know.
Yeah. And I guess he took a pay cut for this to actually be able to do it.
I'm sure he did.
So yeah, they get told that they have to write the song that's going to save the world by 7:17 p.m. They have to play it at, I can't remember where a weird location.
It's like
MP46, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. And they get given all these instruments and stuff like that, and instead Ted comes up with the wonderful plan to just go into the future and rob the song from themselves when they've written it. So that kind of becomes their kind of adventure for most of the film at this point. Is their keep jumping ahead in time to try and get to a point when they've written the song, and then they can take the song back to, you know, the present and then play it. At that point, I think the great leader just sends the time traveling robot Dennis after them to kill them instead, because she doesn't believe. She thinks the prophecy that George Carlin was obsessed with in the first film actually might be the death of Bill and Ted, not they write a whole song. Don't know how that works, but fine.
Is it at this point we find out the world's kind of, the history's kind of
folding in on itself? Yeah.
So people in one timeline now end up in another timeline and things like that.
And all like realities are merging together and destroying each other and stuff. Yeah. Bill and Ted go off to the future, and Kelly goes back in time to try and find them. Instead, she meets their daughters, Billy and Thea. And Billy and Thea, who at this point have already decided they're going to help their fathers make the song. Instead, ask Kelly if they can just borrow her time machine, and they're going to go through time themselves and make a band.
Well, they basically, they kind of both relive the first two movies, don't they? So they kind of basically do. Yeah. They basically do Excellent Adventure, and then they do Bogus Journey.
What did you think about the band they put together?
What, with Louis Armstrong and Jimi Hendrix? Who else was it?
Mozart,
and then that drum, like the drummer.
There's Ling Lung, who is the mythical inventor of Chinese music.
Yeah.
And then just a drummer from Cave War.
Apparently Genghis Khan is around there, or referenced in there. apparently.
Oh, is it? I thought it was much earlier than Genghis Khan.
Well, I mean, I could be wrong, but I read that somewhere. But I thought it was okay. I thought they could have probably got more. I don't know.
Yeah, I kind of wanted a few more time travel stuff.
Yeah.
I did. I wanted a few more interactions. But I loved it. I absolutely love Louis Armstrong. I think Louis Armstrong is wonderful.
You know, like I think Elvis would have been too on the nose, but like you could have got your Buddy Holly or something like that, or do you know what I mean? Just
I think I would have liked to see someone from their time period. So
someone from now, you mean?
No, someone from the 80s.
Oh,
so someone
okay,
from Bill and Ted's time period. So
David
I don't
Lee
know.
Roth.
This is when you put Eddie Van Halen in it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
something like that, or you know, someone from Metallica, or you know, someone like that. I guess.
Sure. I think that's where it would have fitted into the film.
I mean, you know, if you get the rights of Kurt Cobain or something like that, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But that's difficult, you know, wish list.
Yeah.
But the person who plays Grom, by the way, the cave woman drummer, she's the drummer for like Beyonce in real life and stuff. Okay. So she's a really talented musician in her own rights.
Obviously from present day we got Kid Cudi.
Yeah.
And I just have a feeling that was just current day musician, whoever we can get, because I'm like,
whoever we can get.
No offense to this guy, I've never heard of him in my life. And
I have heard of him, but I really liked him in this film.
He only had like two lines.
Sure, but he had a really good feel to him. He was really relaxed. I loved his. I don't normally like these kind of cameos when it's a real person playing someone who's not himself.
Yeah.
Though playing himself, but I liked his kind of relaxed like physics to it. His over-explaining stuff. I liked how he was just on board with it. It worked for me actually in a role that normally doesn't work for me. I like his little station thing and stuff. So,
did you think Louis Armstrong was like the what the fuck?
Billy the Kid?
Yeah, kind of. He just gets on board with it straight away.
I love it. I love how he just giggles at the end of his lines all the time.
I thought he was really good actually. That actor.
I really liked him. When this film for me was a little shaky up until basically Louis Armstrong really got me on board with it. And he kind of, his comfortableness with the plot almost got me comfortable with the plot, I think.
Right.
And I love the bit when he meets Jimi Hendrix and he just plays some
partially
trumpet in the hall. Kind
of settling in, going, oh wow, I'm actually watching a Bill and Ted film in 2020. So it's a kind of like you're still trying to kind of find your feet a bit, I guess. So I don't know. I know.
How do I feel about this?
I know you've watched a bit of it again. Did it feel a bit? Did the beginning bit?
I've watched it almost 3 times now. Actually,
did the beginning bit settle in for you a bit more?
A little more. It still doesn't totally work for me. It's the wedding scene more than anything else. It doesn't work for me. There's a lot of ramping up. You know, the gears have to keep pulled. They have to get to the future. They have to introduce the plot. They have to kind of then go into the future themselves, and then the time travel has to go back so that the girls can go and go through time. There's a lot of gears, and the therapy actually. There's a lot of gears twisting until you get to it kind of flowing.
Do you think?
So I think.
Do you think you're meant to believe that the band are now like a wedding tribute act, like a wedding band, and that's what they do now, or do you think they were just doing that as a present, their wedding gift?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
So,
no, I think you are meant to believe them more like a wedding band because when they're in the future, the great leader tells them that they played like a taco night, didn't they?
Yeah, because like.
And she's like, whatever a taco is.
You know, I've got friends in bands who, like, 10 years ago, they're like, I'd never do a tribute band. I'd never play wedding bands. And then 10 years later, they love playing in wedding bands and they love doing tribute bands because they actually make money doing what they like to do. Do you know what I mean?
What I kind of like about Bill and Ted in this is that the fact they haven't become the people they were told they were going to become.
Yeah.
Which is what's causing them the kind of frustration. But I think they're still loving it. They love playing music. They love being musicians. They love rocking. And that's still in them, I think, at this point. And I think you get that sense from the film.
It might be more fun if you saw them like with guitars a bit more, because you only see them at the end, really, like rocking out a bit. But
I think, like, I guess you wanted to see a bit more interaction with them in different things.
Yeah.
Because they have quite a depressing journey.
Yeah.
What I think is the problem. Until they get to hell, their journey's a little bit depressing. And I want to see that for Bill and Ted. Like, So yeah, they
It's
go into the
depressing,
future.
but
They
it's
meet
still
the future
funny,
themselves. Like, yeah, it's still funny. They meet themselves in multiple time periods, don't they? As their lives are kind of collapsing. Their girlfriends have left them. The princess or wives have left them. And they never wrote the song, and they're just getting more depressed and angry and alcoholic.
So the girls are meeting. They've been met by future versions of themselves, and they're looking for like their ideal timeline where they're happy with Bill and Ted. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
they're looking for a reality where they're actually happy.
But they can't find one.
To see if this is actually possible.
Yeah.
Is what
and then, what did you think of the two actors who played the daughters? By the way,
I thought they're great. Absolutely great. Samara Weaving, you'll know as Hugo Weaving's daughter.
No, it's niece, I think.
Or is it niece? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so she plays Thea. So that's Bill's daughter. And Bridget Lundy Payne plays Billy, which is Ted's daughter. And I really thought Bridget Lundy Payne gets the Ted down.
For me, she was just... If she dialed it back just
a touch, mate. Yeah,
because I thought... She did a really good impression. Don't get me wrong. I thought she got the mannerisms right, but I thought it was just that little bit too like Uncanny Valley, where it just felt a bit too much. Because she was just too much like Ted. If she kind of had her own thing going on,
a little bit more, sure.
Yeah,
I think it's the same. So they go through time. They're picking up people. They end up getting killed by the robot, and they end up in hell. And Bill and Ted, after going to the future and meeting themselves, get the song. So they go all the way to the really far future to see themselves dying. And they have a really sweet scene where they're talking to themselves. And they end up getting the song from them. I love how you got this route going through the film that Bill is really comfortable with his future self and likes talking to his different selves. And Ted doesn't at all. Like, Ted's always really standoffish. And that's like when he's... Like, Keanu nails it when they're dying. Well, he's not dying, but when they're really old and in bed. And they both apologise to each other for never letting themselves get to know themselves.
That bit got me, that bit in that film.
It got me so hard. Like, it got me so hard. Like, and it was like, God, that's absolute mood for, like, 2020 for me, I swear.
What do you think of, like, the muscle... So, like you said, they meet various versions of themselves. There's the one where they're at the taco night, I think. And that's kind of where Ted's a bit of a dickhead to Ted, and like, what did you think of like that version?
I really liked that bit of the bar when they're just playing their song to no one, and they're just they're sleeping in their vans and they're just angry. I like that.
And then you've got the second sequence after that, which is a few years later, and they're in a mansion, and you believe it's their house.
Oh yeah. They're in Dave Grohl's house.
What do you think of that, of Dave Grohl being the one who wrote the song that they're kind of stealing?
I thought it was really funny, actually. That was a perfect rock cameo, actually.
That has one of my favourite scenes in it. So Bill and Ted say, "Oh, let's do that thing that worked that one time." And I was thinking, are they going to do the time game? But they haven't got a time machine. But I'm sure they can figure. Well, they have got a time machine. They've got a time machine. Yeah. So I was thinking, they're going to do a time game. But then no, you see them with buckets on their head. And they just fall out the window, and you think that's amazing. They just put buckets on their heads, so they don't know where they're going or what they're doing, and then that's how they get out of the situation.
They can't make any decision.
And I thought that was fantastic. I thought that was so.
I really laughed at that. Yeah. I really laughed at that. I thought it was really funny.
Sorry, carry on.
The way they introduced it, I thought that it was something in another film, and it's not, which cracked me up.
I love the interaction, like when they found out that the other than Bill and Ted are not nice Bill and Ted. They're kind of assholes again. I thought it was so good. And and then Ted's dad gets killed by the robot as well.
Yeah. He blows up his dad and the whole police squad. And then they go further to the future, and at that point Bill and Ted are in jail because they were in Dave Grohl's house.
Yes.
Which seems like a pretty strict punishment.
And now they're like all roided up, and
they're all roided up, and they've got their own song.
Yeah. I couldn't work out what the song was, to be honest, but I don't know if it's one off the soundtrack, because I know you've got Lamb of God in this, but I don't know if that's in Hell.
Oh, maybe it was. I didn't even think of that.
And then you've got Mastodon as well.
Yeah.
They're the two heaviest tracks on the album, for sure. But yeah, and then I think then after the Hell one is when, not the Hell, when after the muscle bound versions, that's when they meet their old selves, which like we said, I just adored that scene. I thought it was so nice. Did you actually watch the end credits though?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
When they're rocking out,
the old versions rocking. Yeah.
I really liked it.
It was good.
The makeup looked fantastic. I thought
it did.
I think that's some of the best old makeup I've ever seen in a film. I thought it was so good. Like it didn't require CGI
compared to like A Beautiful Mind and stuff like that.
Yeah. Really good.
No, I agree. No, I'd say like that Ted line really worked for me. I thought it was really, really smart little line. At that point, they realise that everyone's been killed, so they kill themselves to go to hell, don't they? Yeah, because Dennis is going to blow himself up, and they jump him to go to hell.
Yeah, because he's like, "Oh, I did something wrong. I did something."
Yeah. By the way, do you know Anthony Carrigan is the guy who plays Dennis?
Who's Anthony Carrigan?
Have you seen Barry?
Yes, yeah, with the Fonz.
Yeah. He plays NoHo Hank, the bald guy in that.
Okay.
You really recognise him from it. He's also in Gotham apparently, but
I'm never going to watch that.
Maybe you mentioned Batman. Go on. And so yeah, they go to hell, and this is where the Bill and Ted story for me really worked.
Oh, okay. Well, it's because death comes into it.
Yeah, but it's also from that like scene when they're old and then into hell. Then I was like, oh god, Bill and Ted have just hit their like. It just took them a while to get back to them being Bill and Ted, and I don't mean that badly.
Yeah,
I mean like in story progression.
Yeah, I got you.
And so they get to hell, and I love the scenes in hell. I love the demons they ask directions from. And I love that the dad at this point loves them. He's like, "You were right. I should have been supporting you."
He's still a dickhead to Bill, though. He's like, I wasn't talking to you, Bill.
Bill's like, "Oh yeah, sure, sorry." They then go see Death, who is
he's angry with them.
Yeah, he's angry with them, isn't he? He's playing hopscotch on his own.
And he's cheating.
He's cheating, yeah. And he's angry with them because, like, he says that fame got to his head, doesn't he, later on? Yeah. And he just got jealous and stuff. And I really like this scene because he's really petty to Bill and Ted and won't listen to them. And then his daughters come in, and his daughters just, like...
well, obviously, they grew up with him. So that,
like, totally, like Uncle Death.
Yeah, exactly, Uncle Death.
And they butter him up, telling him about all these great bass music and different albums and stuff. And he's really cute when he's like holding his gown and going, "What about like the bass solo in? Is it something with Dr. D or something?"
What's the term? They're like massaging his ego or whatever. They're kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. And it's working for him because Def's a little kind of petty man, and he just needs to kind of know how to talk to him. And all he really wants to be is with his friends. Yeah. And I really liked it. Like, he just wants to hang out with his friends and he misses his friends, but he's too proud to be, like, the better person in this. They convince Def that they need to help him. They also say that he's been demoted as well because he let two guys out of hell.
Don't we get some air guitar there as well?
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Isn't it the first air guitar? No, it's not. There's an air guitar when they get into the phone booth. Yeah.
There's a few dotted around.
But I love that bit when he gets into the van and he's like, "Let's rock," and he whacks his like staff on the ground and the van just shoots up into the air. I just was like, by this point I was so on board with the film. I was so just happy with everything that was happening. And that's when it's the final kind of set piece. Then they end up just on the interstate and they realise MP46 is the mile marker on the interstate. I love the question that Ted's like. So Bill's like, "How can it happen here? How can it just happen here?" And Ted's like, "Well, because it did happen here." And Bill's like, "Yeah, good point, Ted." Which is classic Bill and Ted, like logic and conversation.
And then this is where you obviously you watch the trailer. You're like, "I don't know how this ends," and it does end the way you thought.
That annoying thing. Yeah. So I watched the trailer and just went, "Oh, so Preston Logan's their daughters. They're going to write the song then."
They don't really write it. They are the kind of I don't know. It's weird.
I think the way they do it is really smart and actually manages to tick every box.
Yeah, I guess
in a way that I think's really hard to do.
Yeah.
But they have it that the reason they haven't written the song that unites everyone is it's not really about them writing a song to unite everyone.
Yeah, it's just about everyone.
Like
I like how like we're going into the credits. They kind of go into it because they did not a competition, but where everybody could submit themselves, like playing air guitar or like larking around. And
is that what that is?
And then so the idea is that it just unites the world because everyone starts to pick up an instrument and it's because the infinite
they
harmonise
the universe.
Given everyone instruments.
Yeah.
Which I love.
And that means
that was amazing.
That means they do save the day.
Yeah,
that's what I like. Like it is actually them who save the day. They're just not the ones who write the song.
Yeah,
which nails it. Like I really like it. So yeah, like they finally realise their daughters are meant to like the song. Their USB drive is broken, so they haven't got the song. But they just tell their daughters to get the band together and start like playing. And you see them kind of creatively playing with the different members of the band, like telling what Mozart to play and telling Louis Armstrong what to do and getting the bass working. And you got this really nice cacophony of noises that start coming together.
Well, it's nice,
which just works for me.
It's just a simple riff, which is something that everyone could just hum or play. Do you know what I mean? That's the idea.
Yeah.
Just it's something that everyone could easily play, and then that's.
And at the same time, you got Bill and Ted realizing that it's not about them playing a song right now. It's about the fact that the universe and all realities have to hear this song.
Yeah.
So they go through time with the princesses, or they don't go through time. They go through all realities with the princesses.
I love the fact that Ted's trying to. Is it Bill and Ted are just trying to put the whole of infinity?
I laughed so much at that bit when they try and dial infinity, and it keeps coming back to them. They're like 5, 6. 1, and then it goes around, comes back 3, 5.
Why don't you just press the infinity button?
Oh yeah. And at that point, when they hit the infinity button and they shoot up into the air and like become infinite beings, I was floored.
Yeah, I was
so
like, that
on
was
board.
so cool.
Like I was so on board with everything that was going on, and I love the happiness of it and the noises and everything. It just works. And I was so like, it was like I was not just relieved that the film was working for me. I was relieved that it was working in the film itself as well. Like, do you know what I mean? It was all ticking right. There's a really funny bit where Ted's handing out instruments and he speaks to Deacon and Missy and goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm an infinite being right now. See you later." Like, and so you get all the music coming together, and eventually what finishes it is Bill and Ted riff on their guitars themselves. And it ends.
I mean, like I said to you, it's a very abrupt ending.
Yeah.
But I just had a lot of fun with it, and it just brought me a lot of joy. And I saw people criticizing saying that Keanu Reeves wasn't like Ted, but I thought he was a 50-year-old version of Ted, and I thought it was perfect.
They are meant to be older versions. They're not meant to be the 20-year-old versions, like however they were. Like,
I mean, if I was to be really honest, I probably would say Alex Winter has probably pips him just a little bit, but it's very marginal. I think they're both fantastic in it. So
yeah, I think as I say, Ted gets that kind of just kind of looseness of Keanu Reeves' performance again. It feels like Ted to me.
Yeah, Ted's got like those floppy arms that kind of like as he turns around, his arms will then follow him.
His arms follow later, and he kind of reacts at the same speed to stuff. Like, you know, Bill saying something, and he's like, "Oh yeah," like yeah. And he gets that down really lovely, and it feels like Bill and Ted are on the screen again, despite it being that much longer.
Yeah,
and it's not a perfect movie, and you can see there were, you know, you've talked about budgetary things that meant they couldn't do stuff they wanted to do, but it works, and that just filled me with so much love.
Well, things don't have to be perfect to be enjoyable. Do you know what I mean?
No,
no.
And like there's something so full, like. There's something so fulfilling about the end of that film just being the song to harmonise everything and Bill and Ted playing it. And I didn't know that I needed to watch that until I watched this film. Do you know what I mean? I was happy with the weird Bill and Ted plot that somehow they save the world with their music. I
eventually,
didn't really care.
someday,
you know, whatever.
We're just singing another adventure with them.
Yeah. But I'm glad that they managed to kind of pull those, what frankly are jokes from the other films, into a plot of a film that works.
Well, I guess they kind of wanted to just kind of cap it all off and say, okay, we're done now, but we've kind of gone out on the highest note we possibly can, I guess. And
possibly can on the story, totally, yeah.
Because I don't think we need a Bill and Ted 4.
No,
and,
no, there's nothing to say.
And I don't think I was ever clamouring for a Bill and Ted 3, but when it was announced, I'll be like, well, of course I'm going to go and see it, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, sure.
And probably if they announce a Bill and Ted 4, I'll probably like, yeah, I'll go and watch it. But right now, I'm very content with...
I was reticent that they wouldn't be able to pull something together that works for me, and when I realised it was working for me, that was a really nice feeling. Like, really nice to go, oh, like, it was like relief that, oh shit, this is working for me, and that's all I wanted. Do you know, like... I
mean, like, you could say, I don't know what they could do now, because they've done what they were supposed to do. But then, if you look back at the other two, as we said, they're standalone adventures, so they could if they wanted to. I don't think they need to.
No, I think it would be pointless.
Yeah.
Really. Like, but, I don't know, whatever. Who knows? But it worked.
Yeah.
And it works. I say, like, there's something about in portraying in a film a band pulling off a musical performance that always gets to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what it is. I was trying to think. There was a thing I watched recently that did that. But it I
guess School of Rock does it. And...
School of Rock does it. Yeah, totally. I watched an anime called Zombieland Saga.
Okay.
And it's about this idol band, a Japanese idol band that are made up of zombies.
I need to see this film.
It's wonderful. I really love it, honestly. And a lot of those episodes end with them out of like strife managing to pull off a really good musical performance. And I was realizing each time it works for me. Like, it grabs me by the heart, and it really always gets to me.
I guess we tried to do that with our film that we wrote, and I do.
That's true.
Like, looking back, I think I could properly tackle that film and do it justice. I mean, it'd need a good rewrite, but I think I could do that film and properly do it justice. But I probably wouldn't be where I am. Not saying I'm an amazing filmmaker or whatever, but I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't have made that film. If we hadn't made
totally,
it.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Film school.
I haven't watched it in a long time. So just for the audience out there, me and Liam made a film together called Lost in the Headlights, and it's like a comedy drama, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's about a rock band called the Old Scientist Die. Proper pretentious name.
Old Scientist Die, yeah. It's like the Eagles.
Yeah, and I'd say it's like for the first 30-40 minutes, it's about a band trying to kind of become famous, and then all of a sudden their drummer dies in an accident. It's about how they kind of deal with the death of their drummer. And I mean, we definitely learnt a lot making that film, for sure.
We bit off slightly more than we can chew in terms of like dramatic presentation of a death of something in a film, but we were trying,
and we made it just before HD equipment was kind of.
Oh, we did, didn't we?
It was just before it was readily available or easy.
Like affordable. Yeah.
You know, if we had made it like 3 or 4 years later, we probably could have done it, and it would have looked okay. But we were using like digital what is it called, like mini DV tapes, so it's like digital
mini DV tapes.
But on the heel of that, we worked with some good actors who we still work with today, and you know,
including Natalie,
exactly, so God,
I never think of that.
Maybe we should rewatch that film one day. I haven't seen it in about 10 years, so I'm scared to watch it.
I don't know if I want to. Hokey dialogue. Oh God, what else? I guess like I had a grand thing that I've been thinking about with Bill and Ted, and I mentioned it earlier, and it might sound a bit bad.
Go on.
But the fact that like Bill and Ted is this bright utopian future based on like pop culture and technology, and like the 90s, that idea slowly fades away, even though it's still kind of there. But you see it in loads of pop culture throughout the 90s. And then you get kind of 2000s hit, and you get 9/11, you get infinite war in the Middle East, and you get recessions are hitting us a lot. Like the idea that our future is going to drive out some grand, perfect world stops being a thing that pop culture does. And it's really kind of cool in 2020 to see a film that's actually about that, and about the idea that there are these people in the world that are bright sparks, that are happy people, that can believe in like a utopian perfect future.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, 100%.
And they're driving for it in this year, because it's set in 2020. Then in this year, they're still trying to achieve that. Yeah. it's nice because the reality of the world, global warming and COVID and whatever, and recession and Brexit and whatever the hell's going on, is all too much for us. And it's nice to see these avatars of just love to kind of fight for our future. And I will fight for Bill and Ted for that.
Fight for Bill.
They believe in this, and I'll fight for them, kind of thing. That's my kind of review of the Bill and Ted.
No, I'm 100% on board with that. Yeah.
And any more final thoughts, really?
Not really. It's definitely a film I will revisit quite frequently.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I've only watched it once, but I only saw it last week, so give me some time. Jeez.
Sure.
But no, no, I'm definitely going to.
You're gonna let me use Spacey seen it 3 times.
But like you said, Bill and Ted is a big part of our childhood.
Yeah.
You hired a cinema out for my stag do, and we watched Bill and Ted Excellent Adventure.
We should have said that at the start.
It's a big part of our lives, and and I think it will continue to do so.
Yeah, I think so too.
And it's a good. They're maybe the second one's a bit darker, but I think they're good films for kids. Kids like them as well. Evident that we were kids when we watched them. And I think, this new film is definitely like an all ages kind of film, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice
and
that, you could sit down if you've got kids, then with your parents and stuff, and kind of, it's like the whole family could actually enjoy it and get something out of it in one way or another.
I was going to say as well, I thought about the casting. They did kind of try and be inclusive as well. I do like the fact that it's Louis Armstrong and Jimi Hendrix they pulled through time.
Yeah.
It's who are, and not just a bunch of white musicians from the 80s or something. I do like the fact that they.
Yeah, but also if it's not for people like Louis Armstrong, you don't have the rock music that we have now. It's
exactly.
It's it all go this is why if there's any racism in rock music, in punk rock, in metal, how can you
possibly?
It all stems back to blues and stuff like that. That's where its roots are. And I
like that, and I like the white guy they pull out is Mozart, because of course it is.
Yeah, I did like that scene though, where it's got Jimi Hendrix rocking out.
I love when he comes out and Jimmy's like, "Hey, how you doing, Wolfie?" I'm Jimmy. I was like, "Yeah, you are."
The landing effects in this film are a lot better of the.
That's true. Yeah,
because in the first film they didn't have much money, so apparently every effect where the phone box lands is someone just looking up and then looking down as it lands, because they didn't have the money to drop it or do that.
Okay.
So now you've actually got the phone box actually go landing and stuff like that.
Yeah. Ah, cool. I don't think anything else. I don't know if I want to mention the kind of elephant in the room with the Bill and Ted films. I think we said it before about the F slurs.
Oh, in the first two.
And I always knew about the one in the first one, which it's really badly placed in the first one. But it happens 3 times in Bodacious Journey.
Does it? God.
And one of them's the evil ones say it, and I can't remember what the other one is. But yeah, I noticed it today when watching them, and I was like, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because it's just where society was when they made that film, which is the.
I don't think the writers wrote it from a hateful place necessarily. It's just
no, they didn't write it saying I'm going to be hateful towards queer people today. But it was just the society at the time when they wrote it and was that.
I mean, when we were at
not
school,
seen any other way.
In that time, people would just go, "Oh, you're gay," even if
sure,
because that's what it was like back then. But thankfully, times have moved on and people have learned.
Thankfully, times have moved on, yeah. And I could see them if they're releasing this in a 4K or something to do a quick edit.
Do you think so?
I could if they cared enough.
Well, it has. Shout Factory released Bogus Journey and Excellent Adventure last year in a 2-pack.
Oh, did
and
they?
It's still in there, so
it's still in there. Then maybe not.
But I think in the commentary track they talk about it. They acknowledge it, and they say, we regret doing this. But I think
it's just one of those things. As a modern audience, you'll notice it.
But it's just one of those things, though. Do you erase things like that from the past? Or
it's a very big conversation.
Yeah, I know, but it's it's one of that is the conversation. It's like Disney have done a lot of that, haven't they? Erasing things out of their films and things like that.
Sure, I think films can always be ongoing pieces to adjust if they're still living.
Ask George Lucas, he'll agree with
exactly. And I don't know. It's
Yeah, I think things like that are hateful, I think, can probably go. Do you know what I mean?
It's when they feel so out of place. Yeah. But I mean, you can watch. We're doing this on this podcast. We're going back and watching older films, and I think like there's a lot of language in those films that are so out of place that you kind of jar you, and you kind of think like, are we meant to think that because they're saying that they're really horrible people, or are they just saying this because it's the 70s?
Well, I guess if you're making a film like American History X, you expect someone to say hateful stuff in it because that's what it's about. It's about someone kind of.
I was thinking of Pelling 123.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And you're like, oh god, that was weird. Okay.
Yeah. I think it just sticks out more because of where we are in society now. And I know we're not perfect by any means, but like,
no, of course not.
We're definitely like a lot better with things like that, and well, I should hope we are. And we're all more conscious.
The key
about
is to just be mindful of it, isn't it? Yeah, and that's how you get better. Like.
So what are we talking about next week?
Yeah, so next week we're back to our 70 miniseries, and we're doing Time After Time.
Yeah,
which is another time travel.
Oh yeah, good point.
It goes in quite well with Bill and Ted. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm looking forward to that. So please rate, review, and subscribe on all the podcast apps that you use, be it like Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, or even on YouTube or Spotify. Please follow us and talk to us on Twitter. We are at AdjustYourTrack. That's a YR, not a your. You can even follow us on Instagram. We're at Better Feeling Films on Instagram, and Better Feeling on Twitter. And don't forget, if the picture's bad, always adjust your tracking.